Hello everyone, it's Skip here with a review for Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord. This game has been highly anticipated for what seems like forever, and it's honestly giving me a lot of the vibes that Warband gave off when I first played that. I just can't justify how awesome it is charging into battle with the rest of your army, and I often found myself dismounting off my horse just so I can charge into battle like the rest of my men. Okay, so before you get to the character creation screen, you do get to choose your faction. This ends up choosing which part of the map you spawn in, and there's a few different perks here and there. But honestly, the good part is none of these are game changing, so it's not really beneficial if you choose one or the other. Then you get to a glorified character creation screen. This is so much better than the one in Warband, and there's way too many options to keep track of. You can honestly just mess around for about 30 minutes and get some funny looking characters, such as this one. I ended up making my guy look a bit like Jesus because I could not take the wacky characters seriously. The game has decided to take an early access pathway, which could be a bit confusing for some people, considering the history that early access titles have had in the past. Regardless, I think it was the perfect choice, because it has allowed for all sorts of people to start testing the game and reporting bugs, which are actually being fixed extremely often by the way, and I'm very impressed with the patch notes that they're actually releasing to the public. The game does have a nicer tutorial this time around. Things are a fair bit easier to get into. It does a good job of introducing most of the mechanics, although it is a bit of a grind to try and do each individual exercise. Despite this, it's as easy as pressing tab to exit the tutorial room. So then you pretty much go in and continue the tutorial, and this will honestly spark some flashbacks if you've played Warband, because you go and fight another group of bandits, but it's a bit more rehashed in a bit of a brand new raid format. Alright, so I want to go into some pros and cons because I feel like I need to address the issues that have been made in what is pretty much kind of a remaster. So let's start with the pros. First off, I'm absolutely loving the interface. It feels really nice compared to Warband. The UI is a lot smoother in many ways, and that leads me into the graphics as well. It's a massive jump up from Warband's graphics, and that's pretty much expected since it's been almost 10 years since the release of Warband. The gameplay is fairly similar to that of Warband, and you're pretty much taking part in a lot of the same errands that you would run when playing Warband. And honestly, that's a good thing. I'm having so much fun with all the different types of battle you can do, and slowly being able to build up my army. So the ability to actually grow your army as the game progresses and you slowly create a name for yourself is pretty cool. The fact that politics actually depict changes in the game world whilst you're running around delivering herd and doing other types of quests, it's honestly such a cool feature, and it helps build that feeling of immersion in the game. Sometimes when you kill a bandit and capture a prisoner, sometimes they will actually give the location of their hideout, and this is so much fun. Being able to actually slowly raid their hideout and take out their entire base is amazing. The tournaments are actually pretty fun, and you usually win a piece of equipment for doing them. Sadly, I can never win because I always get backstabbed or my reactions are too slow, and it really brings out how ahead of its time the combat system was, because being able to read how your opponent is fighting and choose the proper direction to attack from is great, for me anyways. The quest interface at the top of every point of interest is an awesome upgrade, and it actually makes it so much easier to find people who hide in all of those weird nooks and crannies of their respective areas. You actually get a fair bit of choice when it comes to doing quests, and you often get tasked with having to do the morally right thing or the thing for the most money, and it's usually the latter, to be honest. Plus, you'll pretty much be hit with a wave of nostalgia if you go complete a quest, because you get this awesome sound effect. As I've said, the combat is really good to me anyways. There's still a few physical glitches, like I've actually seen some characters disappear, but I haven't been able to recreate it since then, and you can't really complain about that since it is still an early access game. As the developers themselves say, the combat is honestly easy to learn, but it is so difficult to master. And that gives the game such a challenging aspect to the combat, and it's honestly so rewarding when you actually get yourself out of tough situations. Okay, so in my very first playthrough I actually had everything on realistic damage, and look, that basically meant I got knocked out like constantly, like all of the time. But it was fine because my team usually saved me and got me out of those situations. I know I'm being really nostalgic here, but just listen to the victory sounds. I found it really hard to start commanding the army in really sophisticated ways, and I usually just straight up charge at the enemy and wait for both sides to collide, but I think you can honestly get some pretty cool formations if you actually spend some time learning how to do it. I also like the fact that you basically start with nothing. A lot of the people you'll fight in battle have so much better gear, and I've noticed even in tournament battles, I was getting absolutely decimated because I had no good gear and everyone else had full plate mail. They could take 10 to 15 hits, while I could literally take 3. I forgot to mention there's actually an economy in the game too. a living and breathing economy. It's a great way to get money, and you can often talk to some of the townsfolk and they'll be able to recommend you an item to buy in their city. And if you go sell that in another city, you can often double your money like pretty fast. I know I've compared quite a few of these points to Warband, but that's honestly kind of expected. It's basically a sequel to the original with very similar mechanics and components, and that's not even a bad thing, but we'll start talking about those now. So I've heard of a handful of bugs, but the game is getting updated so regularly, and I haven't actually encountered that many other than a few odd crashes here and there. As I've said previously, there are a few audio-visual glitches that happen occasionally, but I haven't really been bugged by them as they're usually gone in a few quick seconds. The one thing that I don't like about the combat is how your swings just don't connect if you're in a battle with the max player limit. I mean, I try swinging, but I just get caught on the bodies of my teammates. I mean, this is realistic, but I feel like my character would be able to maneuver his weapon through all of the actions somewhat. The questing system does feel a bit hollow a few weeks into the release, and I'm sure this will be fixed in the future with voice acting and more in-depth quests. So the quest pool is actually very small, and you can actually get the same quest from two different guys with two different names and locations, and it kind of just ruins the immersion. I've had a bit of a problem with some other aspects of the questing system, and that includes being asked to deliver herd. I don't know where they actually are, because I assumed they would be on the map and I'd like lead them to the destination, but no, they went straight into my inventory, and there's no indication that shows this, since when you ask the quest giver, he just asks if you're ready to take them, so maybe a visual indication that you have new inventory items would actually help. I didn't really dip into the multiplayer in the early access format to start off with, however I did in the beta, and it was, well, how can I say this? It was very clunky and laggy, and I just didn't like it, if I'm going to be 100% honest. If you want to come to a game like this just for the multiplayer, I'd go look somewhere else because this game does not have it. I went back into the multiplayer to see what it was like in the early access, and yeah, I just avoid it completely for the time being. So should you buy this game? Well, do you like starting off in a big world and slowly building an army up from nothing? Do you like going into a massive battlefield among hundreds of other soldiers, fighting in a massive war, or destroying other castles in a siege? I honestly think this game has so much to offer, and you have so many opportunities to explore the world and really immerse yourself. It's pretty much a strategy / action RPG game, and you pretty much can do whatever you want. If you've played games like Total War and you actually want to be one of the players in the battle and influence it by yourself, I highly recommend this for you. And for everyone else, I pretty much recommend this like straight up. You honestly have the chance to take part in this massive sandbox, and there's going to be a ton of mods being created, because you saw Warband, it had so many mods. You could play Star Wars, you could play Game of Thrones, stuff like that. The possibilities are honestly endless. Anyways, that pretty much wraps it up. Thank you for watching today's video. If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all on the flip side. Peace out.